Mr. Guthrie.
All right, thank you.
Kentucky.
Turning on. I don't think, there it is, I guess. Hey, thanks, Ms. Jackson, for what you're talking about. When I meet with, we have climate change folks in Kentucky, and when they come, a lot of times you'll bring up these social determinants of their policy, particularly in our area where it affects coal miners and coal families. They just dismiss it away with like these big, lofty, oh, we're going to make them all be computer programmers and we're all going to be part of the 21st century. So we need to have hearings on that, how difficult, or hopefully tease this out even more what you're talking about, because the people who are the most ardent climate change people pretend to be the most pretend or put out that they're the most for the downtrodden and so forth. And we also need to, it limits people from moving forward if you don't have reliable and sustainable energy. And to getting to that, I have the pleasure, if anybody's a John Prine fan in here, of Muhlenberg County and the Paradise coal plant that's now closed, and he wrote that song way before it was closed. And TVA, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in my area, we had rolling blackouts. And we don't thought that was something California did because of their climate policy, but because of TVA. I don't know if we put my finger on that. It was because they closed down their fossil fuel plants. So certainly a big part of it. Now, we don't have reliable energy on a cold day like we had because of energy. So, I mean, people, the negative effects of climate policy, people need to absolutely understand, and I know we're going to try to bring out. And Mr. Hickman, so my question, I have a big farming communities as well. I'm not really in coal country, I just picked it up a little bit in redistricting. But a lot of soybeans, corn kind of folks in my area. And when you say things go from 200 to 600, for example, a truck driver told me, he said, it used to take me $500 a day to fill a truck up, now it's $1,500 a day. And and I have 70 trucks. So you can start doing the math and you can just get it around your head. So when you say it goes from 200 to 600, I mean, there are people telling me that some of their inputs would go from a couple of 100,000 to 700,000. Sure. And so it all happened during growing season, so they just had to absorb it. But how much, not only the price of food, but the availability of food? I mean, how much longer can people in your industry take the risk? Because one, you can make a decision if you're a manufacturer. So well, if I'm going to put these inputs in my product and I can't get my bid product on this, or if I'm going to sell this cup, I know how much I got in it, how much I want to make on it. And if you don't pay me for that, I'm not going to make it. But you have to make it and then see what the market produces. So are you hearing in the farm communities that people are just going to get out of producing it because they can't take the risk? I mean, they're risking generations of family farms. But
well, I think, yes, you bring up a good point. Supply and demand determines what agriculture gets for our prices, basically on the Chicago Board of Trade. We were somewhat fortunate in 22. Grain prices increased maybe 20 or 25%, largely because of the Ukraine situation, but this is the most perilous time, I think, for American agriculture because, as you said, these price increases happened when we were already in production, so you had no choice. I think the option farmers have today is, are they going to reduce fertilizer inputs, which will reduce yields in the long term, which the world certainly doesn't want because that's going to drive food prices even higher. I haven't heard of people getting out, but you know, we had a similar situation in the early 80s when all the inputs, inflation drove everything higher, and then the commodity markets collapsed. And some of you might remember when there were tractorcades driving around the U.S. Capitol, farmers protesting. So I think we're running that risk at this point. If the commodities don't stay at a relatively good price to keep up with these input costs, then it could be devastating for agriculture.
What is supply and demand? And eventually, the price is going to match the cost, which is going to be higher at the grocery store.
Right.
I mean, that's what inflation is, right? But there's a lag.
Right.
And you can't have a $500,000 investment and be caught on the wrong side of the lag. I mean, that's what some farmers are telling me, that
exactly.
They didn't have the choice to move forward on that. I just have 30 seconds left, so I won't get into my next question, but just thanks a lot, appreciate it, and look forward to working this session on bringing these things out. Appreciate it.